precedent by a court doesn't matter anymore in this country, and people violate laws anytime they want. So for me, if I violate this law, it's because I want a court to pay attention to it. And there is nothing more important than counting votes.
The blatant flouting of the law sparking outrage.
Democrats in Pennsylvania said they're going to count illegal ballots so their guy can win, and they don't care what the court says, and challenges the court to do something about it. Okay, to understand what's going on, we have to look at Pennsylvania Statutes Title 25. This is section 3146.6, voting by absentee electors. This requires that if someone is voting by mail, that the electors shall then fill out, date, and sign the declaration printed on the envelope. Now, if the person doesn't sign and date the envelope, then that vote will not be counted. Now, this was important because mail-in ballots started coming in and they had signatures, but they either had the wrong date or they had no date at all. Now, under current state law, as you just saw, these ballots were invalid and couldn't be counted. These essentially were illegal votes. Now, Democratic officials wanted to count these ballots because they said that the voters shouldn't be penalized for a clerical error.
In May, several nonpartisan groups led by the Black Political Empowerment Project sued election boards in Allegheny and Philadelphia counties, as well as Secretary of State Al Schmidt. The suit argued that disqualifying ballots violates protections under the Pennsylvania Constitution.
Now, the lower court ruled that the ballots could be counted even if they were lacking a handwritten date as required by law. Then the State Supreme Court of Pennsylvania vacated the lower court's ruling, putting back in place the law as it was before.
This new ruling from the state's high court basically means undated or misdated ballots sent into election offices will not count for now. So in a 4-3 ruling, the Supreme Court pushed back on a recent Commonwealth Court's decision requiring the state to count ballots with missing or incorrect dates on the outer envelopes. The reason? Well, essentially, the previous ruling lacked the necessary jurisdiction because the plaintiffs did not name all 67 counties in the Commonwealth as defendants in the original lawsuit.
So, as you just heard, the case was dismissed on procedural grounds because not all of the counties were named in the lawsuit. So what did the plaintiffs do? Well, they refiled and named all the counties. This forced the Supreme Court to make a decision on the merits of the case, and they did.
Pennsylvania Supreme Court is declining to rule on a pair of cases related to mail-in ballots in the Commonwealth. The decisions were published Saturday. One case challenged dating requirements on the return envelopes. The other was over ballot curing policies, when voters are notified about errors on their ballots and are allowed to fix the mistakes before the polls close. The court said it was too close to the general election date to risk confusing voters by changing any rules.
If you forget to put your ballot in the secrecy envelope, or you forget to sign the declaration envelope, or you forget to put the date on the declaration envelope, your ballot will not count.
Now, just to be thorough, here is the ruling from the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. It's about a 2-page ruling, and it says, and now this 5th day of October 2024, petitioner's application for the exercise of King's Bench or extraordinary jurisdiction is hereby denied. The court will neither impose or countenance substantial alterations to existing laws and procedures during the pendency of an ongoing election. Then they said an earlier case and, quote, call it what you will, latches, the parcel, principle, or common sense. The idea is that courts will not disrupt imminent elections absent a powerful reason for doing so. So the court's not changing the rules at the last minute, so if you don't date your envelope, the vote will not count. Then we had an election. Bob Casey, who's running on the Democratic ticket, got 48.51% of the vote, while Dave McCormick, running as a Republican, got 48.91% of the vote. Now, since the vote tally that separated the two men was 0.5%, this triggered an automatic state recount.
Now, from Harrisburg, the Pennsylvania Secretary of State announced that there will be an automatic recount in the Pennsylvania Senate race. Just 28,000 votes separate Republican Dave McCormick and incumbent Democrat Bob Casey. That margin is within 0.5%, which has triggered the automatic recount. That recount must be completed by November 26th.
So at this point, you would think the situation is settled. After the recount, we'll have a new senator. But Democrats in the most populated Democratic counties decided to ignore the law, ignore the court order, and count those votes anyway. Check it out.
Weeks before the election, the state Supreme Court ruled mail-in ballots with a missing or incorrect date could not be counted. Election officials in at least 4 counties, Bucks, Philadelphia Center, and Montgomery, openly defying that ruling. In Bucks County, the Democrat-led Election Commission Board voted to count 405 ballots with date errors.
Precedent by a court doesn't matter anymore in this country, and people violate laws anytime they want. So for me, if I violate this law, it's because I want a court to pay attention to it. And there is nothing more important than counting votes.
The blatant flouting of the law sparking outrage.
So just so we understand what's going on here, we have an elected Democrat in charge of elections saying that they don't give a damn what the court says. They don't give a damn what the law says. They're going to do their own thing and essentially told the court, do something about it. So the state Supreme Court, being challenged by all these Democratic counties to do something, did. This is an order on November 18th, 2024 from the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. And they speak to the woman in Bucks County directly. They direct that all respondents, including the Board of Elections in Bucks County, Montgomery County, and Philadelphia County, shall comply with the prior rulings of this court, which we have clarified that mail-in and absentee ballots that fail to comply with the requirements of the Pennsylvania Election Code, which we saw earlier, shall not be counted. And now it would be illegal to count those votes.
Pennsylvania State Supreme Court has ordered counties not to count disputed ballots in the U.S. Senate race. The order includes mail-in ballots without the correct handwritten date on the return envelope. This comes as the campaigns for Republican Dave McCormick and Democrat Bob Casey get ready for a statewide recount. The Associated Press called the race for McCormick last week, though Casey, who is behind by more than 17,000 votes, has yet to concede. Bucks County Board of Elections Chair Bob Harvey issued a statement saying that the board will comply with the court's orders, and this was the clarity that they were seeking from the court. He also slammed claims that the board tried to influence the outcome of the election through its ballot counting procedures, adding that the roughly 600 total challenge ballots at issue here could not have swayed the election results.
So what do you think the Democrats are going to do? It seems like their guy just lost the election, and them trying to count, quote, illegal votes isn't going to cut it. And the state Supreme Court has now essentially made counting those votes illegal. So obviously there's a lot of political outrage because this is now the Democrats essentially doing what they were claiming Trump was doing 4 years ago. So here is some of the most liberal newspapers in the country, like the Washington Post. Listen to what they say about it.
The liberal Washington Post editorial board saying Democrats are thumbing their nose at the rule of law, calling it, quote, corrosive to democracy. Conservative commentator Jonathan Turley writing in an op-ed that Democrats are dropping any pretense of protecting democracy over partisanship.
Essentially, this is election denialism of the kind that Democrats have been attacking Donald Trump for doing in the past.
So what should happen to these Democrat elected officials who are openly, now with no pretense, saying we're not following the law, we don't give a damn about the precedent, and we're going to do what we're going to do? Stop us. Should they be charged? Remember, Trump was charged for doing this in Georgia and on the federal level. Should there be charges brought against you? Is this election interference? Trying to count votes that are not cast legally? Let me know how you feel in the comments section. My name is Nate the Lawyer, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.